Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Carlson. Today, we're going to talk about employees versus independent contractors, maybe a few pitfalls that you might fall into. How does it all work? Yeah, intro music. Awesome, right? I'll re-edit that later. I haven't been live in quite a while, so I hope we get a few people on board here. There's a little bit of delay on YouTube Studios, so I'm not sure how that works, but it's a little bit confusing for me. So I'm going to switch back over to the software and manage that. So I haven't been live for a while, so I'm going to try and keep this up and make sure I don't say anything that I shouldn't, that I can't edit out, or I guess I could edit it out later, but I won't edit it out. Yeah, I will. I hope everyone's enjoying a nice warm cup of strangely warm coffee this morning. If you haven't gotten some, get it. It's great. Roasted right here in downtown Sebring, where we all like to be. A shout out today, as always, to one of our customers, this time, Anytime Fitness Lake Placid, Greg and Lisa Hill. If you haven't been in there and you need a great place to work out in the south part of the county, that's your ticket. Go see them. Tell them I sent you. I think you'll like it. Personal training, individual fitness plans, whatever you need, Greg and Lisa can hook you up. So go by there and see them. All right, let's jump right in. Today, employee versus independent contractor. This is one of the most, and I thought I talked about this, but I couldn't find the show on it. So I thought I'd go ahead and do it again. So this is one of the most, probably one of the most asked questions that I get, especially from new businesses. So I thought it would be very important to cover it. And a recent client just got tested on this exact question. Shout out if you're watching this morning. Sorry, we'll get back together this week and figure out what we need to do on that. But wanted to touch base with you on this and cruise through employee versus independent contractor. One of the most asked questions that we get from our customers across the board. I'm looking down, I can't not look down this time around. I mean, in general, what's going on with employee versus independent contractor? So I either have an employee or an independent contractor. The general question is, can I not treat someone as an employee and instead treat them as an independent contractor? And the reason for that is multifaceted, but in general, it's to save money because you're not covering the cost of the payroll, matching payroll taxes. Maybe you're trying not to cover the cost of comp. Maybe they really are an independent contractor and hold themselves out to do what they do for other people. Let's talk real quickly about what that test looks like and what the real difference. Oh, and overtime is another one that a lot of people try and skate around. So payroll taxes, overtime, insurance, there's all kinds of incentives out there for you to treat someone as an independent contractor versus an employee. And the rules are really pretty clear. And I've always told my clients, it's based on what, when, and how they do their job. So if you tell them what, when, and how they do their job, you tell them when they have to clock in, what clients are going to work on, they use your tools to do it, and they are doing it based on the standards that you set, pretty much going to be treated as an employee. But I'm going to flip over real quick to a little chart that I found online that's kind of me and help you look at this. So this chart shows, picture in picture too. So this chart real briefly just shows kind of the differences between employee versus independent contractor. And we'll go down the employee ones first. So they're continuing a relationship, meaning they're going to be there for a long period of time. You furnish tools and materials necessary to complete the job. That would be computers, desks, paper, pens, printer, those sort of software, whatever you need. The employee can quit you at any time. They can just walk out. They must comply with your instructions on what, when, and how to do their job. And generally, they're trained how to do the job by you. Independent contractor, on the other hand, is someone who does the same task for multiple people. So they're working for multiple people or companies out there. They have their own tools, own equipment. They can hire and supervise people to help them do their job. They also, this is very important, it'll come up later, they have a risk of loss or the ability to gain through profit. They set their own schedules, do their own work, and they have their own license and insurance. This doesn't say insurance, but they have their own license and insurance. And it's very important as a note there that the employee versus independent contractor question comes up. You think about it, and I try to explain it this way. If I hire someone in my office to work on accounting and tax. I just got coffee on my hand. If I hire someone in my office to work on accounting and taxes, generally I'm going to train them the way that I want them to do the job. I'm going to provide them with the tools necessary to do their job. And I'm going to tell them when they have to be here, which clients they're going to work on, and check some standards at the end to make sure they're doing it the way that I want. On the other hand, if I'm hiring an independent contractor, and sometimes this might happen, I have relationships with a few bookkeeping partners that are around the country, and if they're bookkeeping, they are bookkeepers who offer their services to lots of people, and I might hire them to come in on a special project for a particular client because we don't have the time, or maybe that person has the expertise in that area that we're looking at, whether it's e-commerce or government accounting or anything like that, that we might not be experts at. I can bring in someone to help me out on a short-term basis. They're going to be utilizing their own tools. They're going to be, the only thing I'm doing is providing the client. It's kind of like if I hired an electrician to come in, they're going to bring their own tools. They're going to come when they can come. They're going to carry their own insurance, hire and fire their own employees, and leave at will. So that kind of covers a little bit of the generic terms of the difference between employee versus independent contractor. And I talked some about the incentives or disincentives, but the legal test comes in to a little bit different of a question. In the IRS, how do you get, let's back up. How do you get, if I treat someone incorrectly, how am I going to get caught, and what are the risks of getting caught? So in all the years we've been here, I've only seen this tested, honestly, one time. My chair is a little low. I've only seen it tested one time, and that was this year. And the IRS came down with some pretty good questions. But first, how did the IRS find out about it? Well, the IRS found out because a person who was working in this particular business left and probably went to, we don't know the reason, but they probably went to file their tax return and discovered that they're going to owe a bunch of taxes. Thus, the employer treating them as an independent contractor to save the 7.65% of Social Security and Medicare tax, but this person probably noticed they were going to have to pay that. And in this case, that person reported them to the IRS as wanting a W-2 versus a 1099. So we had to respond, and it was a pretty lengthy response. I believe it was, let's say, 5 pages, the response that we sent, documentation that came up. So what are some of the pitfalls that came up when we were responding to this? The first one is, if you hire an independent contractor, definitely do not sign a document with them called an employment contract. Right off the bat, you've hurt yourself because you're telling this person that they're an employee when they're really an independent contractor. But I want to be clear on this. The type of contract that you have does not dictate the standard to which you test employee versus independent contractor. So just because you say I've got an independent contractor contract, there could be items within the contract itself that identify them as an employee versus an independent contractor. In this particular case, there was a employment agreement for an independent contractor. And within the employment agreement, there were some specific items listed there that really identify this person more as an employee than an independent contractor. And even though this person, the worker, I'm just going to refer to them as worker in this case, they held themselves out to provide this service to other people on a regular basis. They also were supposed to carry insurance on themselves. So they were doing independent work outside of this company, and there was no sort of non-compete agreement or anything like that. They used a lot of their own tools when they were outside of this particular facility, but they used the tools were there. So what did it come down to in the end? I'll tell you exactly what it did. This is the very careful part, that if you get a notice from the IRS, no matter what it's about, please do not respond. Whether you're my client or not, call a qualified professional to represent you. Do not talk to the IRS. Do not provide them any documentation. Don't answer any of their questions. Tell them that you're represented by a professional. Go hire us, obviously, so that we can handle it for you, because there are certain things that would immediately throw that test out. So if you had one of these agreements and I read through it, I might say, we don't want to provide that because that's going to prove their case for them. But let's answer some of the other questions. this particular worker could set their own schedule pretty much. They got paid on a per unit basis, so it wasn't something that they were guaranteed a particular salary. But the real test with the IRS came down to control, and really important was risk of loss. And that was one of the items that I showed you in that other chart. If you look over there, oh, and the computer just went off, so I'll flip back. Was the risk of loss and whether or not this person, the worker, had a risk of actually losing money through it. So as you know, small business owners, we risk the low times and to get hopefully some high times in our revenue stream. This person had no risk of loss, meaning that although I kind of disagree with the IRS, because if the person didn't go to work, they weren't going to get paid. So there was a risk of loss there. But the risk of loss was really borne by the company in this particular instance, because they were the ones that scheduled and collected the payments, not the worker. So that those things kind of shut that down, where they were no longer able to be treated as an independent contractor based on control and risk of loss. And that's important, because getting income on the high side and getting income on the low side, very important when you're thinking about independent contractor versus employee. But I take that test down very, very, very simply, and just try to say that that the company needs to test based on what, when, and how they're going to do their job. If you control all of those things, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be an employee, not an independent contractor. So please take that into account when you're testing this, or when you're thinking about bringing someone on in your company. It's very important for you to know the difference and know whether or not you need to track it a little bit differently. If you have any further questions on that, please give me a call anytime at 863-382-4141. You can reach us on the web at carlsonaccounting.com, or you can stop by the office, 129 South Commerce Avenue. And if someone's available, we'll take you right in and give you a chat. You can even schedule an appointment for me right on our webpage at carlsonaccounting.com. I hope you enjoyed that. It doesn't look like my transfer to YouTube Live really hit a lot of viewers. I have 0 people watching right now. So I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream. I'm going to go check the video and the live stream to see how they came out, and I'll do some editing on the video and maybe repost later. I hope you all have a fantastic day. You know, I'm kicking around the idea of doing a live Q&A. Maybe I'll take the show for about a half an hour and answer some questions from some of my viewers. We'll see how that goes in the coming weeks, and I'll give you a week's advance notice, or I'll post something on Facebook to let you know we're going to do it. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Coffee with Carlson, and we'll see you next week, 8 a.m. on Monday morning. Thank you very much, and have a fantastic day.